Puerto Rico was used from 1899 to 1932. And they used that as a means of not confusing importers, exporters. It had to do with a shipping thing where Puerto Rico wasn't too user friendly, I should say, to the foreigners of the French, Spanish, Portuguese, and Italians that were inhabiting the island at that time. Puerto Rico Import Company was the name of the store, and they sell coffee from all over the world. Then I find out that Puerto Rico Import Company was actually erected because the Pope liked it, Puerto Rican coffee, and so they opened the market. Now I started looking back at maps because Google doesn't tell you everything. So I start looking through maps, and I start looking through old maps, and I start taking the maps as far as I can take them, and as far as I can find a map, aside from when Christopher Columbus first documented his journey in 1493. On his second journey, which he came back with 100 ships and 1,000 men. The first map was made in 1592, and it had the name of St. John. Now we all know that when Columbus first claimed the island, he named it San Juan. He named it after San Juan Bautista. So how did it become Puerto Rico? So I was doing my history on the maps that were made from the terrains at the time. And 1592 shows that Puerto Rico, as we know today, was only a little port on the northern part of the island, the central northern part of the island, was the only thing that you can find on the map that said Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico, we know today as San Juan. Where the location San Juan is, that's what Puerto Rico was initially, while the island was called San Juan. The spelling was a little bit different. The conquistadors, they had a system that they used to classify the islands, and it was called insulas. We call it today peninsula. They called it insula. Now it was the insula of Jamaica, the insula of Cuba, the insula of Haiti, the insula of the Virgin Islands, and then they had the insula of Saint Ionis. That's how it's spelled on the first map recorded in 1592. The name of the island was called Joannis, pronounced Saint Jonas. The I gives it the J sound now. Like I said, there were French, Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, and Dutch settlers already there. So the spelling itself had to appeal to all nationalities. So St. Jonas was the name of Puerto Rico in 1592. Then another map surfaces in 1604. That name on the map has it Saint Giovanni. Giovanni. If you look at the spellings on Ionis, it's kind of like the same. So I guess the Dutch at that time, or the Italians were settling in and made the map, called it Saint Giovanni. From 1592 being Saint John to 1604 being Giovanni, spelled Giovanni. But I believe he's probably pronounced Saint John as well. Okay. And then another map surfaces in 1754. 1754, but it's spelled Saint, like the word saint today, John de Puerto Rico. Saint John de Puerto Rico, but the John pronounced like jeans, like blue jean. Saint John de Puerto Rico was the island name, but Saint Juan uh, was called the same. It was called Saint John de Puerto Rico. So now we have the island called that, and the port is called that as well. Another map surfaces up in 1868, in 1886 rather, 1886, and this map is referred to Isla de Puerto Rico. Okay, the name island was actually part of it at one time. Isla de Puerto Rico. That was in 1886. Now, when the Spanish-American War happened in 1898, it was changed back to currently what we have it as Puerto Rico, without the island there. Just when you think we finished finalizing the name of the map, finally, of the island, after the Spanish-American War, Americans took the island as the spoils of war, redid the maps with the name Puerto Rico. But this time, the port of San Juan was seen for the first time, right? Now they got inverted. Puerto Rico is no longer the port, but it's the name of the island, and the port is called San Juan now. In 1899, as to not to confuse merchants, the name was changed back after the Spanish-American War had claimed Puerto Rico. They start drawing out the map as Puerto Rico with the Porto. All of those years, the maps was being created as Puerto Rico, and there's several of them that comes out. Several maps. In 1932, it became just Puerto Rico again. According to my findings, Puerto Rico has been 7 times the island's name has been changed on the topographical map. 7 times. That is amazing considering that when you go to school, all they do is teach you about Columbus discovering Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico this, Puerto Rico that, without getting to the root of how many countries had their hands elbow deep on the island, had control, had a say so, had business. Puerto Rico is nuestra isla. Puerto Rico is the identity of which we was exposed to the world.